Is it ridiculous to expect Georgia's offense to be better in 2024? I think that most of what we've done in terms of talking about Georgia in this upcoming season has been positive. Now, almost everything, mostly over the last few years, has been a positive conversation when you talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. It's kind of hard to be negative when you're winning national championships and competing for national championships and getting number one classes and doing all that on a yearly basis. That's just the reality. But it's easy to look forward and be like, well, they're just going to get better next year. 2023 ended in a disappointing way, but Georgia's offense was really good. Put up 40-something a game, 40.5, 40.1. They put up 40 a game with Mike Bobo as the new offensive coordinator, again for the Georgia Bulldogs, and Carson Beck. It was his first year as a starter. So I think that we're all, and look, this is not me saying that I don't think Georgia's offense is going to be really good, but I want to get that out there on the table that maybe we need to pump the brakes a little bit and let it play out. Maybe I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, but I think we need to talk about, are we assuming things because it's year two of Carson Beck and year two of Mike Bobo, but ignoring some of the other things around this offense? Mike Bobo got some criticism, and Carson Beck got some criticism. Now, Carson Beck ended up throwing for almost 4,000 yards, had a 3-to-1 TD to INT ratio, right? Those numbers, or actually a 4-to-1 TD to INT ratio. So very good numbers for Carson Beck, leading what I consider to be a top 10 offense. I don't have that number in front of me, but when you're putting up 40 points a game, I think that you're cracking the top 10, if not the top 15 in terms of scoring. They put up a lot of yards. They had multiple games where they threatened for 600 yards. I believe they did get 600 yards against the Kentucky Wildcats. Georgia's offense was really good. I think they're going to be missing some guys. They're going to be replacing some of those guys, but I think that just assuming that it's going to be substantially better, or at least focusing on the Carson Beck aspect of that, where we think that Carson Beck's going to take a step forward, is not the only thing that we should be focusing on. And maybe we need to not ignore the rest of it. And I'll get into that right now in a minute. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post here, talking about Georgia's offense and if we should be tempering our expectations for what the Dogs are actually going to look like on that side of the football. Our newsletter is down below. Sign up for it. I'm not asking, I'm telling. Sign up for it, please. If you want to be informed, you want to get alerts, you want to be on top of things in terms of the Georgia Bulldogs. Those Georgia fans are the ones that are signed up for the Dawg Post newsletter. Link for that is in the description of this video down below. It takes 2 seconds. Just type in your email, and that's it. And you're not going to miss out on any seriously. Look, it's me, Dean and Matt. We're giving you the best content we possibly can. You're going to miss out on that. So the conversation this whole time is in, well, and I agree. Carson Beck. Year two Carson Beck, year two Mike Bobo. And I'm a big year two guy. I use that term a lot, and it's a very literal term, but I think things improve in year two. I'll throw out some examples of college football recent year two improvements. The Georgia Bulldogs in 2017 under Kirby Smart, year two of him. Year two of Joe Burrow being in the system at LSU. Turned out to be one of the best seasons that we've ever seen. Jaden Daniels in year two. Justin Fields in year two of college. I mean, you can go and find a gazillion year twos, especially with pairings. And that's what this is with Carson Beck and Mike Bobo. It's a pairing on offense. And they're not all. There's an offensive line, there's a running back room, there's a tight end room, and there's a wide receiver room. And that's the other part of the conversation that I think is being ignored at least a little bit. In terms of running back, let's start there. I don't know that it's going to be better than Kendall Milton and Dejan Edwards. Don't know where Branson Robinson is health-wise. He told me at the Orange Bowl that he kind of just started jogging and just started swimming. So, right, that's a month and a half ago. So I don't expect him to be participating in the spring in any serious way or in any real way. You bring in Trevor Etienne. I think he's an experienced running back. Can he be a lead workhorse? Is that what they're going to ask him to do? I guess we don't know what they're going to ask of Trevor Etienne, at least a little bit until the spring. We start to get those conversations. Is Roderick Robinson going to step up? Outside of that, I mean, Andrew Paul, Cash Jones, they were in that reserve role with Roderick Robinson. Out of those three, Robinson's the one that shows the most promise to me. And then there's a freshman, which we just don't know what they're going to be. Wide receivers. I don't think it's better, per se. I mean, it's it's not substantially worse. You lose Ladd McConkey, you lose Marcus Jackson. Those guys, I think, meant a lot to Georgia over the years. Marcus Jackson, not a guy that came in and was this huge stats guy. I think this past season was the only time he ever hit over 500 yards, but he was around for 4 years, and he made some big plays. And if you wanted to throw a 50-50 ball, if it wasn't going to Brock Bowers, it's probably going to, or A.D. Mitchell, it's probably going to Marcus Jackson, who showed some serious special catch ability. And you lose Ladd McConkey, who was clearly the best receiver for Georgia last year, and just 2022 was his best season. He was the wide receiver one for Georgia, while A.D. Mitchell spent most of the year unhealthy in terms of football. You're losing that, and you're losing Brock Bowers. I'm taking a pause after Brock Bowers there to let that settle in. He's not going to be on this football team anymore, and he is the best offensive weapon they've had since Nick Chubb and Todd Gurley. In this century, he might be the best. I think you can make an argument for retiring his jersey. The eye test at least tells you that. Go watch the Brock Bowers highlight tape if you haven't seen it. Right there, that's 1,600-ish yards and 27 touchdowns on the ground. 1,200. 1,600-ish, 1,700-ish, and a bunch of touchdowns through the air that they've got to replace between the 5 offensive weapons I talked about. Now, look, this is what happens. You got to replace guys every year. This is not like a brand new thing. But it did feel that a lot of these guys were important, were really important players for Georgia. And they're going to have some transfers come in and be main replacements. When you talk about Trevor Etienne, I hope I haven't been saying Travis. It's Trevor. When you talk about Trevor Etienne, Kobe Young, London Humphreys, what are they going to be in this offense? Returning guys that were also transfers, Robert Thomas, Dominic Lovett, and then you got Dylan Bell. I think that those guys are going to be huge. Obviously, Oscar Delp's going to be huge, but are they going to be as good as these other weapons? Part of me really wants to say no. I don't know that any of these receivers are better than Ladd McConkey. Obviously, Oscar Delp is not Brock Bowers. Now, you can go back and look at the stats and look at the wins, and, Brock Bowers missed some games. What happened when Brock Bowers didn't play? They beat Missouri, they beat Florida up, and that was really all he missed. And with an extremely limited Brock Bowers, they beat Ole Miss 52-17. Without Ladd McConkey throughout the year, they took care of business. He obviously wasn't healthy throughout the season. I just don't know that it's going to be significantly better. I do think Carson Beck's going to take a step up. And if he takes the step up that I think he's capable of, then maybe I should just be shutting my mouth about this, and Georgia's offense will be a lot better. In terms of the offensive line, losing Amarius Mims is tough, right? He's obviously an NFL talent. He's obviously a freakish athlete. They don't make a lot of 6'7", 350-pound guys that can run 20 miles per hour, right? Those don't come on trees. And then Cedric Van Pran, in a way, is even more rare just because of the leader he was, the consistency. This guy didn't get hurt. He had 44 consecutive starts at Georgia. And in those 44 starts, I think they only lost 3 games, maybe 4, depending on when it was. 21, 22, 23. They lost to Alabama and Alabama. 2 games. So, and Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck didn't get sacked very often. And Georgia's offensive numbers were very good, and he was a big-time leader for Georgia. So I do think that when you're losing guys like Cedric Van Pran and Brock Bowers, it makes it much more difficult for things to get better. You lose Ladd McConkey. You saw in the SEC Championship what it was like to have a very limited version of Brock and Ladd, which in my opinion was probably a mistake to have them out there in hindsight if they really weren't that healthy and they weren't impacting the game as positively as they possibly could have. Maybe that wasn't the right call to play them as much as it was, but that's beside the point. If Carson Beck doesn't take a big step forward, maybe is the better way to put this whole conversation, I don't think Georgia's offense is going to be better. I think it'll be worse. Marinate on that.